All right, so let's see. Yeah. All right. I believe done redirecting to the Facebook Live. Webinar is streaming live. Yes, we are streaming live, and I can see myself, and we are live. Okay, so we're gonna try this one more again and see how this goes, because I really want to have this conversation with you guys tonight. So I'm hoping that the signal will hold and that everything will work out. So let's hope and pray that it works and everything will be everything. All right, so I'm going to reintroduce my guests one more time and let them introduce themselves and pray. If we make it to the 3-minute mark, then it's working and all is well, okay? You guys know me because this is my page. I'm Lanee Javet. And you know that I like to have really good conversations and dialogue where it comes to the relationships between men and women. And my friend Demecos here put up a post a couple of days ago about his perspective on relationships between men and women. And I thought it was so intriguing, I wanted to talk about it, okay? So before we get into that conversation, let them introduce themselves, and then we're gonna jump into this dialogue. So Demecos, go ahead and introduce yourself first.
Hey, my name is Courage Coach Demecos. I specialize in fair confrontation. I basically help individuals confront their biggest fears. That's denying them from obtaining life-changing goals. And I've helped dozens of women and men, married to single as well. And all my reviews and testimonials are posted in my photo album on my page under hashtag Building Up the Courage Now. And I'm basically here to help Black men specifically get to the premier version of themselves by counteracting these toxic mantras and monikers that they've lived by for centuries. That's been killing them and our relationships, our relationships within our community.
Awesome, Montoya.
Hey, what's up, Queen? Again, my name is Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates. I am the owner and facilitator of the Mental Dialogue Community Club, and we are focused on the psychology of our people who unfortunately are suffering from post-traumatic slave syndrome, as I always say, somewhat unknowingly. And we're just hoping to basically dialogue with people like yourself and Demecos and improve our conversations inside our own head. If you're better, we're better. And as I always say, you can't act right unless you think right. My motto is all I ask is that you think.
Yes. So let me start this conversation. I was saying I love both of these gentlemen. Both of them are super dope kings. I've been following for a long time. I appreciate. I've had the opportunity to speak on a stage with Demecos and pass him once, maybe twice. Montoya, I go to Mental Dialogue whenever he has it on Fridays when I lived in Atlanta. So I know both of these gentlemen very well, which is why I invited them to have this conversation. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Demecos had put up a post the other day on his page that read, and I quote, "Women don't need a man. Kids do. Men need a good woman." Now, I'm going to let you explain what does that mean. What does it mean when you say women don't need a man, kids do, men need a good woman? Explain what you mean by that. Or what you meant by that, I should say.
Right. So for starters, thank you for sharing your platform with me.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm a fan of yours from afar as well, seeing your growth over the years from where you started your journey to where you are today. I mean, it's just, it's a testimony of what's possible, not only for a woman, but for a human being who has a vision, right? And Montoya is my big brother, so y'all don't get it. Montoya is like a mentor for me. I'll reach out to him for many of my my thoughts and ideas, especially around Afrocentrism, that I just lack, because he's just more knowledgeable than me in certain areas. So anyway, that's my big bro. So anything we share, anything we go back and forth on, this is all a build. It may seem like a debate, but this is all to build. I'm going to take away from this. He's going to take away from this. And we're just going to continuously add to the collective. So going on, so starting off with my post meant, women in 2018 do not need men. All right. This isn't the 1800s anymore. Women are depending on men for survival. Statistically, across the board, women can live on their own, and can actually earn livable wages without the need of a man, and can protect themselves from from violence that can occur without the again, the protection of a man. So protection and providing are the two monikers that men egotistically live by, that's causing a great divide. The only humans who need the only beings that need a man are the kids, because without the when it comes to, you look at the numbers of cohabiting parents and parents who are married, children are likely to live productive lives, are less likely to go to prison, are less likely to be teen moms, teen pregnancy, are less likely to take on venereal diseases, are now more likely to live productive, healthy lives when they're cohabiting or have married parents. All right. So that's why children need women. That's why women don't need men. However, men do need a good woman, because if you look at the statistics and look at the research and science from single men comparing them to married men, the numbers are drastically different. Married men live a lot longer. Married men have healthier lives, have healthier sex lives, are less violent, and make more money. In fact, on average, if you are just a man who just gets married, we're not even talking about if you married the right woman, you're a man who gets married, you're going to automatically make $15,000 a year more than you currently do than a single man. All right. But if you look at the numbers of single women compared to married women in isolation, not comparing a family to a single person, but a single woman compared to a married woman in isolation, the numbers are evenly killed across the board. Now, there are some minor differences in the two, but a happy single woman and a happy married woman live similar lives. And that's why women do not need men. Men need a good woman, and kids need both.
All right. So you're you're basically saying that married women and single women can live the same life, quality of life, or longevity of life, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
And if that's the case, then what do you need a man for? If you can live the same type of a life, quality of life as a married woman?
Exactly. And it's not to negate that relationships aren't important. It's to actually alleviate the man from that pressure, that external expectation that he's trying to feel of being obligated to a woman because she needs him. So removing that need removes the obligation, therefore alleviates the stress that he feels to have to be a stereotypical male and husband in the household for a woman. And again, it allows him to grow and prosper. But I'm sure we'll get more into that as we dive into the subject. But that's my whole stance. Yep.
That's your stance. Okay. And so, Montoya, when you saw this post, what did you think?
I'm kind of getting knocked off. I can't see y'all. So can y'all hear me and see me?
I can hear you and I can see you.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure because I can't see y'all, but that's okay. So as I told him, I just told Demecos that this is not a stance that's favorable specifically for the African American community, again, which is my focus. And when he lays out the numbers in that way, that's kind of simple. The data, he's accurate. I've researched the data as well. The numbers he's saying, they're accurate. He knows I'm a data guy or whatever. But I look at this situation similar to, I'm going to make a sports analogy that I hope some people can, I know Demecos will understand. So because I'm talking to him, I'll say this and hopefully others will get it. But it's almost like when an NFL scout is scouting a player, this is going to be a,
Oh, Montoya, you're coming and going, boo.
I'm getting knocked on and off, so I'm assuming when I'm off, y'all can't hear me.
I can't hear you.
Get knocked off again?
Yeah, but you're back.
Okay, so it looks like it's going to knock me on and off, so I'm just letting you know it's continuing.
It's all good. We got
you. Anyway, basically, what I want to say about the data, can you still hear me? Because it's flipping around out for me.
You good?
Okay, cool. So what I want to say about the data is this. Like an NFL scout can look at a player on paper and say, this is the best player for our team, but the best scouts use the data and the eye test. And so when you listen to the data, it's simple as what Demecos said. But the issue for our community that's suffering in ways that sometimes we don't like to admit because we surround ourselves with people like ourselves. So if you're in a relatively good circle, we don't like to own the fact that our community overall is struggling without one another, to bring in some more stats. 28% of our sisters are married. 35% of our men are married in comparison to the rest of America. About half of the country's married, but in the African American community, we're suffering. And so, yeah, you can look at it in a situation of a standalone situation. And I will grant you, if a woman wants to, in a sense, live in isolation, and that's not how you use the word, Demecos, but I would say that if a sister wants to kind of do her own thing and not have a family, I might give you that as you're correct with the data. But if she's looking to have a family, there's nothing that supports what you're saying. And we need more families in our community. I don't want to run on, but I'll just say that right now, that I think it hurts our community to buy into a concept that has been kind of pushed by the feminist movement for a long time. I know Demecos is not coming from in his mind, not coming from the feminist movement's angle. But at the end of the day, the feminist movement has interrupted a lot of our chances of having great unions because we're really the only culture that has this concept of not needing a man. You don't see this in other cultures. Even the feminist movement pushes it, but they stand by their man, even with this feminist movement coming from, quote unquote, the majority community.
Okay, so, and the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is because I personally have been posting a kind of sort of a lot about the dynamics between men and women. Montoya called me last week about the post I did last week about submitting to a man. And so that's why I was like, let's have this conversation, because he's always pulling my coattail. And I am a single woman. I am a single Black woman. So I was like, let's have this conversation. Now, I'll say I don't represent all single Black women, so I'm only going to speak from my perspective of being a single Black woman. But I would say that when I saw your post and I read it, before I got to the end, I saw it and it says, a woman doesn't need a man. And I was like, oh my God, yes, she does. Even though women don't say that, a lot of women still, to your point, walk around saying, I don't need a man, I don't need a man, but she lying. Maybe she doesn't need a man. So when we start talking about needs, I think that that's what's relative. I don't need a man to pay my bills. I don't need a man to take care of me. I don't need those things, right? But when we talk about need from the perspective of emotions, from foundation, from support for, when you talk about, when we start talking about building wealth, you do, I think, need a man for that family environment, for the two-parent home. And then to your point specifically, Demecos, which I do agree with you on, is I don't know if I would say the quality of life is the same, because I think a married woman's quality of life might be different than a single woman's quality of life. But when you start talking about the virility and their nature, I can understand what you say about it's the same. So we might live the same length of life, but I don't think our quality of life is the same. But I did like what you said when you said a man needs a good woman, because I don't think, and how you said it, because I don't think a lot of times that men think about that. Not the same way that women do, right? So we live in a world now where women are saying, I don't need a man, I don't need a man. And we're kind of in a place where men are saying, and I don't need a woman, I don't need a woman, I don't need a woman. So none of us need each other. So I did like that you said, brothers, you do need a woman, because men who are with a woman live this much longer. You get paid more. The quality of your life is better. We're always only talking about the dynamics from the woman's perspective. We never really talk about what a man wants or needs. And that's why I thought this conversation was so important, because people on my page, they always hear me talk. And sometimes people are like, you're man bashing. And I'm not man bashing. I'm just telling it from my perspective. And so now I have you two fine brothers on here to actually have a decent debate with. Right. So with that being said, can you elaborate on why you kind of already said it, but why is it that you feel that a single woman and a married woman are the same from the perspective of not needing a man, when one who has a man has that foundation, has that support, has a partner, and the other one does not?
Well, so here's the thing. So at the end of the day, men have been, when it comes to marriage, and I know a lot of men are going to watch this video and try to find, who's the good guy and who's the villain, who's on my side and who's not. I want men to know, who are watching this video, we're all on your side.
Mm-hmm.
I also want men to know that I'm the type of coach where I always get to the truth, the bottom of the truth, the foundations, because that's where the most work needs to be done. This is how I'm the most effective fear coach in the world, and this is how I'm highly regarded. It's because, I'm able to get to those uncomfortable spaces that most people are afraid to talk about, especially in the public. But these are the necessary truths. When you go get surgery done, they don't go and open up your body and work on the good bones and the healthy bones. No, they go to the weak bones and repair whatever damage and structure that's into the damaged structure inside. They go repair that. That's how I operate. So I'm only going to tell you the truth. I'm only going to tell you the things that you need to hear to help you become the premier version of yourself. All right. And a lot of things that I say may sound like it's a little radical, a little different, a little outside the box, but it's all to counter and get beyond our big egos, which are in the way of us being able to get to the humanity inside of all us men. All right. So when I say compare the lifestyle of a single woman and the lifestyle of a married woman, how they're more similar than different, because you have to look at it like this. A married woman, a happily married woman and a happily single woman, they still make the same amount of money. In fact, arguably, there's research by Purdue, I posted it on my page as well, that shows that when you're a married woman, you actually pay a tax. There's a married tax that you pay because you take on more of the household and domestic obligations than the man, than there would be, and so it takes you back from having to work, because when you're a single woman, you're taking care of yourself and the child. When you're a married woman, you're taking care of yourself, the child, and your husband. All right. So you're having to dial back from certain ambitions a lot more, dial back from certain ambitions more than a single woman would, because she doesn't have as many obligations as you have. So it's like a 6% hit that you take in your income when you're a married woman versus when you're a single woman. So it's just those little idiosyncrasies like that affect a married woman's life compared to a single woman's life. So it's like you don't need a man. Having a partner helps you all, helps you. Kids need both parents. And I don't want the message to get out there that that it's popular or that it's cool to be a single person, because societies need cohabitation. However, the way that marriage is currently structured, it causes more harm than it does good. The divorce side of it doesn't benefit the men at all, and even the marriage side of it doesn't benefit the women at all. And and even the cause for divorce, 63% of women above the average age of 40 and up are the ones who opt for the divorce first. So it's not like, I don't want women, and the thing is, the women are the ones who are pushed this narrative to get married, that you're not validated as a woman until you have a husband, right?
Do you think that's women, or do you think that's the world?
I think women are more so pushed, that men aren't encouraged to get married as much as women. Like, men don't find validation in being a husband. Men don't find validation in having a ring. Men don't find validation in the wedding ceremony. Men don't find validation in telling their friends she proposed, right? Those are all social conditioning that's imposed upon women to do. Women find validation in a lot of those areas, right? So my whole point is that you can be happy single, you can be happy married. But at the end of the day, it's toxic for you to believe that a man needs you and that you need a man, because it causes you to then try to meet an expectation rather than allowing yourself to live in liberty in cohabitation, because you're interdependent, not independent of each other. And you also don't need to be codependent of each other, because that's toxic.
We're gonna come back and talk about that cohabitation thing too. I saw that on your page too. Montoya, do you want to say something to any of that?
Oh, absolutely. A direct question, real quick, to be coach. Why don't men today find validation in those things? Why don't they?
Men
Black
don't
men
find
specifically.
out because a lot of men are starting to,
All the things
one, because,
you listed a few things. Yeah, go ahead. The things that you listed. The things that you listed.
oh,
Men
okay,
don't
okay,
find
why don't, yeah,
validation.
men don't
Yeah.
find
So,
validation in
why
wedding,
don't?
yeah. Men don't find validation in wedding rings because men are the ones who often purchase the wedding rings. Men don't get wedding rings purchased for them, and they aren't the ones getting proposed to. Men also aren't the ones conducting wedding ceremonies. We don't have our cake picked out and our outfits picked out. Like we're not encouraged to build we're not encouraged to pursue the ceremony of marriage. That's not something that most men look forward to. We do it due to obligation and because it's something that's going to satisfy our wife and satisfy our families, especially mom. All right. And then so it was the ring, it was the ceremony, and I forgot what the third one was. But those are the
Either
two.
way. So okay. Those are your thoughts on that. So what I would say to you, again, I think this line of thinking, let me put this out there at the very beginning before I put it out there later. I think this line of thinking is extremely detrimental to the betterment of our community. And participating, I even worry that it validates where we're going here. But the reason men don't find validation in those things at this current point actually comes from the trauma and the cycle that our community is experiencing with out of wedlock children over the course of the last 50 years. And so absolutely, has our hip hop, I am part of the first fatherless generation. And when I say fatherless generation, what I mean by that is I was born at the time that it became over 50% that our children in our community, specifically the Black community, were not born to two-parent married parents. And so, of course, when you say men are not receiving validation in those things, is because we went without the example for so long. We are only in a recent period, and it's the last 40 or 50 years that I'm talking about, in which your manhood wasn't validated by the fact that you were responsible for a family. It has been a natural cycle that our community, and even in this country, with our own, even after the enslavement period, our ancestors married and stayed together better than the majority culture. It's sad today that literally this is at the end of the enslavement period. During enslavement, our children, Black children were more likely to be raised by both their parents, even though they legally couldn't be married. And so once they got free, quote unquote, free, they didn't have to jump the broom no more. They can go get a certificate. They went and got it and kept it. And at the end of the day, I saw a quote, and Lanee, I know you know Noma Langa or whatever. Mm-hmm. She's amazing. She put up this quote today that I wanted to bring to this, and it said, generational wealth is next to impossible if its foundation is not healthy marriages and families. I'm not going to run on, but what I'm going to say to you when you say cohabitation, because I know how you're using the word, Demecos, well, when you say healthy cohabitations, then compare it to a healthy marriage. That's how you do an apples to apple comparison, because a healthy cohabitation and a healthy marriages ain't finna have no difference. Marriage has a negative connotation, but I will tell you that negative connotation was started by the feminist movement over 40 years ago, and they had a 3-part, and I told you, study this history, a 3-part technique to get us to where we are today. And the only people that are suffering from it is the Black community right now. This is a very detrimental line of thought.
Demecos was interject.
May I interject? So again, Montoya is my big brother, so do not confuse our going back and forth with me thinking any less. I just want the viewers to know that. It's all complete respect. So I actually have studied the history of marriage. And in fact, I encourage everyone to definitely tune in to Esther Perel, who's a psychotherapist and marital therapist who has 30 years of work in this area. And she has profound research and information in this area. But here's what I want to say: it did not start with the feminist movement. Women, in fact, women have been had a disdain towards marriage since there's journals written by Greek women who've proclaimed their disdain towards marriage. But guess what? If she didn't marry, she couldn't be able to survive because she would be raped or killed. And on top of that, it wasn't until 1850. All right, and marriage has been in existence since BC, 1850, where women could legally own their own wages. Because prior to that, a woman could work a job, and women worked. And this is something I want to get across, because if this is going to be a history lesson as well, we got to, like I always say, Montoya, if you're going to tell the truth, you got to tell the entire truth. All right? Women up until 18.
I actually asked you to understand the history of feminism. That's different than where you're going. It's very different. I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's not where I'm going. That's not where I'm going. It's very different than what I said. I didn't say the history of marriage. The history of feminism.
I gotta make this point.
Yeah, finish your point. You just understand you're not responding to what I asked you. So you know.
What's the question that you asked me?
What I said was, you thought I said you had studied the history when you started going on the history of marriage. I said the history of feminism. The history of feminism is the issue with where we're at today, and what your line of thought comes directly from something that they planned over.
And I disagree with that, just because I have some of the sentiment that I'm sharing with you is some of the sentiment that a feminist shared with you in the feminist movement started in the mid 1900s. Doesn't mean it's not true sentiment that was shared by others before. All right, just because I use the word dog and another person used the word dog doesn't mean we're part of the same family. It's been in existence. Women have been hated marriage because in marriage, women had no rights to live. So if you notice, actually in the 1900s, when women could legally divorce and own property of the men that they were divorced, you saw the divorce rates for the first time in history jump up from 0.7% in 1900 to we have about 50% now today in 2018. And it's not because of the feminist movement, it's because the precedent of which marriage was created on never evolved like the people have socially. So marriage needs to be reconstructed. That's why I say I'm pro-cohabitation and not pro-marriage, because the structure and legislation that still supports traditional marriage today is the same legislation that supported traditional marriage in the 1700s.
Okay, but okay, so I'm with Patricia. Patricia said, can we bring it back to 2018? So let's bring it back to 2018. And I know what you guys are going to say, that the history is what mandated or got us to where we are today. You have to understand the history to understand how we got to where we are today. I know that that's what you're doing right there. But if we talk about where we are today, right here, right now, I don't wholeheartedly believe that the mindset of where women are today with regards to whether or not they need or don't need a man, I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. All of that has originated from quote unquote feminist movements and the past, if you will. I think that some of the terminology, if you hear a woman say that they don't need a man, it's because of the lack of unity, the lack of coming together, the lack of communication, the unhealthiness between us as men and women is what keeps us from coming together today in 2018. That's what I think that it is. I think some of it is those uber strong women that put that out there. I don't need a man. That turns men off to be like, you know what I'm saying? I think it's how we deal with each other that keeps us from each other today, right now. Somebody said something about, let's see, somebody said something about validation with regards to validating in a man. I think that because of the way men and women look at relationship, some to your point with regards to men not seeing the same value in marriage. Some men do, probably a lot of men do, but there's equally, I think, men that don't see the value in marriage anymore. And I would say that I think all three of us can agree that marriage is the root of wealth 2 incomes, 2-parent households, the ability to send your kids to school, homework, you know what I'm saying? I think we can all agree that that is what builds wealth, or at least it's the foundation to wealth. And if you don't have that, then we as a community suffer. So I really, the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you guys is because you've never been married, right?
Nope, never been married.
You've never been married, right? I'm not married. Okay, so that's 3 of us. All of us are Black. None of us have been married. We're all professionals, yet we aren't founded in the situation where we can create wealth with somebody else. And that's the conversation that I really think that is important for us to have as men and or women. As women, to stop saying that we don't need a man when we do. Now, again, your terminology and definition of need can be different. A lot of women don't need men to take care of them. You know what I'm saying? But you do need a support system. You do need to have that co-partner to buy the house. You do need somebody to help you raise your kids. You do need or should want somebody to walk down the beach in Jamaica with you. You should want to have somebody to kiss at night and rub your back when your back hurts. Like, you should not want to have to do those things for yourself. You should want to have somebody to grow old with in your old age. And I think that a lot of times us as women, when we say we don't need a man, we're speaking to one element in our lives that we don't need a man. But I can almost guarantee you, I'm not speaking for all women. I can almost guarantee you that every woman wants a man, unless she wants a woman. But we're not talking about those women. We're talking about the women that want a man, right? Right. But I don't necessarily think that every man feels that he needs a woman. I think that it's opposite when you start having.
I agree.
I think that
agree.
men think that they are okay, but they can do it on their own.
Yeah. So I actually somewhat disagree with that, and I'll tell you why. So what happens is, again, at one point, a man was validated, and really still is, even though we don't realize this now. But a man was validated for his responsibility to be able to find a wife, take care of a family. That was validation at one point in our own community as well. And so what happens is, now that we have men who don't value that, and it's too many, but whatever. And I think it comes from that cycle that I talked about. But now that we have men who don't value or have that as a validation of manhood, because you can't learn that from other boys. We learn other things as validation. Like, we go the opposite. It's the notches. How many women we sleep with. This is what we chase during our younger years, because we're told that's what manhood is now. And so, because we've grown up with that as a myriad of what young boys do, we live out these extended adolescence, and we don't really grow up to be, in a sense, validated in the way men used to be validated. So what happens is, even in our, I don't even like to use this word, but even in the toxic, the word that people use now, even in that, when you think about, I just saw somebody say this, when you think about when young boys go to jail and you go to the visiting room, it's full of women that they need, even when we don't want to marry you and take care of you the way we're supposed to. We depend on y'all more than we depend on our boys. So even when we think we don't need you, even when we're using terms like, hoes ain't nothing but tricks, even in that mindset, we still end up relying on you, because even those men know that they need you. Even if they're running through them, they still find that one or two that's different that they depend on, because at the end of the day, psychologically, they know that they need you.
Men know that they need women to lay down with.
Hey,
who coming to that room?
Who coming what?
Right, but who coming to that visit room?
No, so men need women too. So okay, so let me ask this question, because I know my ladies on the line, I know they want to know this. So I'm just gonna ask it. Y'all brothers can answer online in the comments. But let's just let's talking. It appears, because I don't want to place blame. So let's say it appears as if in this day and age, a man knows that he needs a woman for the support, to lay down with and to be there when he needs something. Should he have an ailment, go to jail, something happen. But what about the life partnership? What about the accountability? What about that connection? The whole friends with benefit thing says that a man knows he needs a woman. He needs that friendship, and he wants the benefit, but he don't want everything else to come with the package, which is that unity piece. What would you say to that? But either one, and both of you. I'm open to both of you answering that question.
All right. So I don't like to rely on the word need. I say desire.
Desire, right? Okay.
Because when you're needing something or someone, it's too much validation that you seek from that. It's too much expectation. That's the crux of all this. That's the most toxic portion of our relations is expectations. And so when men, the reason a lot of men, especially younger men, opt for marriage is because they have mental fatigue, psychological fatigue of trying to meet societal expectations. A man is supposed to have muscles. A man's supposed to make certain amount of income. A man's supposed to look fly, have nice suits. A man's supposed to have a wife. A man's supposed to be a provider. A man, like, you think about that. You start to build on these societal expectations as a little boy, and now here you are as a 32-year-old grown man, and you're just wore out and you're tired. And you know that if you get married to a woman, there's more obligations that you have to take on. So men, they just get mentally fatigued from from taking on more expectations. And these are what I'm hearing when I talk to my male clients behind the closed doors who are married, male clients who are single. There's just mental fatigue of trying to fulfill societal expectations of what a man is supposed to do. And this is why marriage is falling apart. But to get back to the point, what men need to do is men need to have a healthier gauge on cohabitation, in relationships. We keep trying to levy, here's why you should get married. It's like, no, don't, alleviate all those expectations of a man getting married. And he has to really, men today are starting to calculate, what is it really in marriage for me that I can't obtain on my own, or that's even worth having? All right. So that's why a lot of men are opting from traditional marriage, because men, I will be honest with you, no matter the type of men I talk to, especially my affluent men that I talk to, they want a woman. They really want a dedicated woman. They want a woman they can commit their lives to. It's just the marital structure that men are afraid of. And on top of that, it's the expectations these men are afraid of having to constantly live by. It's draining. It's why that term midlife crisis was created. It's because men get to a point in their lives where their life blueprint is no longer matching up with the type of lifestyle they're actually living. And they're contrasting against each other. He gets stressed out and he goes buy a new Ferrari, or he goes get a young side chick, or he goes do all these things. Say, why, dad's really tripping, living a midlife crisis? No, he's just exhausted from trying to live up to societal expectations. So men want women. Men desire women. Men desire compatibility. Men desire a damn partner. They do. Do not get it twisted.
Okay.
All right. At the end of the day, though, we all as men and women need to come to the table and really figure out what's best for us two individually as far as our relationship structure. What is our relationship structure going to be like? Not the one that your mom wants us to live by, not the one your dad wants us to live by, not one that your preachers wants us to live by. What is going to be most conducive for you and me? And then men got to also be smart to add the financial and the legal documents and attachments to making that cohabitation, that partnership, make sense for the man and the woman. So put her if you're not going to marry her, put her in your will, but put her in in your estate. You can even give her your last name, or you take what works for you two works for you two. Just do not go about it irresponsibly of saying we're just going to be boyfriend, girlfriend with no legal ties to each other, no legal obligations throughout the rest of our lives. But but let the two define it. Just use common sense when defining it. Again, I'm for cohabitation, and most men want a partner. They want her through the hardships, and they want her through the good times. And men make a lot of money, and they want to make money to give it away to women. In fact, I know a lot of men who just make a lot of money and they go splurge on women. They take women out on dates, and these are women who they know probably won't even be around for the long term, but we earn to give. We don't earn to just keep to ourselves, because it doesn't feel like it feels better when you can make a woman feel happy, make a woman feel pleasurable. Men want to give more and more to women. Men just don't want to give into the confines of societal expectations, if that makes sense to you.
Kind of, sort of. Montoya, go ahead and speak.
All right. So I did a show a couple of weeks ago that said, can a mother raise a son to be a man? And something I said on the show is, a mother can teach you how to be responsible, but she can't teach you how to be responsible for a family. So when you're saying, why don't these men want to sign up for that part of it, Lanee, when you're asking that question, because that was your question, it's still, I hate to keep resorting to this cycle of us not seeing our fathers. I got a very few friends that were raised with their fathers in the house. This is a natural cycle that all cultures around the world still right now get from seeing it via example. Because what you're learning in that example is the responsibility part that the father takes on, that without seeing it on my own, my extended adolescence, absolutely, I want you to lay down. Go ahead.
I know exactly where you're going with this, and so and I know exactly where you're going with this. So before you even get there, I'm gonna ask you a question. How do we change that though? Like, we can't just keep saying we weren't raised with fathers in our household, and so that's why men don't know how to settle down and be men or get married, because because if that's the case, we've been saying that for 50 years because we just keep repeating the same thing.
Right.
When does it change? Like, when do men at some point be like, let me do something different than what my daddy did?
Okay. Well, so it ain't gonna work that way. It ain't gonna work. Yeah. It ain't gonna work that way. Marriage before children. Like Demecos just gave up this example of some fancy idea of cohabitation, like it's a different word, and you put in the legal papers gonna have to say exactly what they say once you get married. So I'll come up with another example for making a word that we have demonized beautiful again and pass it on to the next generation. Like right now, it's so demonized. I know young men who don't want to get married because of how bad the word is said. So until we bring that back, there is no turning it around. When you say, do you have some men? I've seen it. I know men like this who on their own say, I don't want to be anything like my father. They turn out as great husbands and wives, but they are the anomaly. So when you ask, when do men say it? Some men do, but most are up against this trauma of missing that. So it is imperative for those of us to not keep normalizing this dysfunction of not having two-parent homes. We've normalized it in the Black community that we defend it.
That's not true. That's not true. If you look across the board, marriage is becoming more and more obsolete, or is losing its favor in every culture. Even in China, they have 6% divorce rate. This is the third year in a row there's been an increase in divorce in China of 3 billion people. In America, we're only 13% of the population, right? But we don't even lead in divorce rates in America. It's not just a Black thing. Marriage, as it's originally constructed, doesn't favor the human being of 2018. It doesn't favor them. We have to reconstruct until we get to the point where we have legislation that supports the reconstruction of marriage. We have to find ways to create relationships with each other that are customized to the persons. So my suggestion is only one way. There's different methods of doing it. I'm just saying, go about it. It's a romance factor, but there's also a business factor as well. You got to apply to it. So find between the romance and between the business, which way is going to work, which method is going to work best for you and your partner. There's no one way. There's no one fits all method or one fits all shoe or shirt that works for everybody. This is 2018. We all have to be accountable. We all got to put on our big boy pants and our girls put on their big girl skirts. All right. And you have to figure this out individually on what works best for you. The accountability's in your hands. You're smart enough to figure it out. All right. But so cohabitation works, cohabitation works, but you need to customize it to where it works for you, best for you and your partner. That's all I'm saying.
Let me say this. Let me put my stamp on it before we start kind of bringing this to a close. I'm gonna say that I'm not cohabitating. I'm gonna say that I want to be married. I'm gonna say that I'm not gonna use the word need, but desire to have a relationship, to have a husband. And I'm going to say that 2 is better than 1, and the same way that women want, desire, and need a man, I feel that men should want, desire, and need a woman. I think that unity, 2-parent households, wealth building, legacy building, all of those things are important. They should be important for women. They should be important for men. And the reason why I wanted to have this conversation, have this dialogue, was because I think it's really important for men and women to see how far apart we are in our thinking and how we think. One of the reasons why I feel like we can't come together is because everybody got their own ideas, got their own ideologies, got their own opinions on what marriage should look like and what marriage should be. And if we can't even come together with regards to what our community should look like, this is why we're so ripped apart, why we're so torn, and why we have so much angst in our community.
Can I ask you this?
Go ahead.
Can I ask you this?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it have to be when has there ever been a point in time, and why does it have to be where we all agree on a certain way of life? Why
we
can't
don't have to all agree. So we don't have to all agree. I think it would be crazy to believe that we can all agree. I don't think that, but I think that there's, you know, and I hate, this is not going to be a great example, so I'm going to say that before I say it, but in politics, you have Democrats and Republicans, so you have 2. And we can agree that there should be more than 2, right? There should at least be a 3rd or a 4th party. We can agree on that. But what if we had to choose from 1,000 candidates? Like, there's 1,000 candidates. We can't ever, I mean, we can't have 1,000 different ideologies. The Black man under 30 can't have one idea of relationships. It's like a Black man over 40 who hasn't been married has a different idea, but then the brother over 40 who has been married but is divorced and has 1 kid has a different ideology, and then the brother that's over 50 that's just too many different things. But then so it's okay for brothers to have all these different ideologies, but us as women, most of us have 1. So we have 1, and we're trying to figure out the 50 that y'all have, and that's why we can't ever come together. Or someone like yourself, my good looking handsome friend Demecos, who says women don't need a man. I hope men don't believe that. I hope that brothers are not walking around in the streets believing that women don't want, need, or desire a man. Because if that's the case, we done jacked the game up. We done jacked the game up, and that's why men is running around here like they don't need women, because we're telling them that we don't need them. We have such a horrible way of communicating with each other and showing love and expressing what we need from each other.
Absolutely.
Self-included.
Can I add something right here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you just said we now have these men who are saying the same thing. That is a new phenomenon that has now come off the back of 20, 30 years of women not needing men. So it's the weakest movement I've ever seen. These men that don't need a woman. It's the weakest shit I've ever seen. It is a furthering decay of what is happening to our community, because at the end of the day, American individualism has not served the Black community well, and it never will. And as you said, Lanee, nothing I'm saying, Demecos, is about all. It is about, from a cultural standpoint, I'm willing to make room for individuals who do not fit the cultural standpoint. But in a global society, and since we do have this social construct of race, and if it matters to us, when you say the progress of Black people, if it matters to us, we are still competing with other cultures who half of them are getting married. Half of them are getting married. And in the last decade, marriage didn't decrease. in the last 2 censuses. It's actually maintained the same. Around the world, 55% of the marriages are arranged. The rest are what we know. The arranged marriages, they get divorced at 6%. There's a lot behind it. Not trying to prove them right. And then when you love to use the numbers, I'm gonna hit you with this number. Yeah, maybe she makes the same as a married woman. Maybe she makes a little more than the married woman. But it ain't what you make, brother. It's what you keep. Sisters, right now, medium household wealth is $100, and that's with Oprah's $3 billion. It's $100. Married Black women, median wealth is 31,000. I don't even know how many times 100 times thousands that is compared to $100.
That's true.
Like,
that's a fact.
Like we can't even get in this array. Like, and again, I know you're trying to come from a different perspective, but if you study I'm gonna say this again. If you were to go study the feminist history and understand why they're saying exactly what you're saying right now, please leave us alone for the Black community. I told you some of your teachings are great for the majority community. Take it and go make your money. Leave us alone, bro, because this is detrimental to the Black community, what you're preaching right now.
Here, and let me add this tidbit. This is what I come from. Understand, I'm approaching it from a mental health professional standpoint as well. You look at the marriage and say the marriages are all maintaining its 49%, 43% for the last 3 decades. You look at it from that standpoint of it's together. You look at it because it's together. I look at it for how the individuals inside are performing. How happy are these individuals? How healthy are these individuals? How highly performing or poorly performing are these individuals? Because that's why they come to me. They come to me because they are screwed up. Right? Yeah, they've been married for 30 years. Money with them, bro. Hold on. Slow down, big bro. Yes, they've been married for 30, 40 years. But for the last 25 years, this man he's on the low attempted suicide twice. All right, on 3 times he's thought about leaving his entire family. See, these are the stories that you look at it's a plaque on the wall, you're married. But there's more behind it. That's why I say the construction of marriage needs to be reconstructed. I'm not saying don't cohabitate, don't get married. Get married, cohabitate. I'm pro cohabitation. I'm pro dual parent households. I'm pro that. All I'm saying is look, traditional marriage is fucked up. The way it's structured is fucked up. And we need to pick it apart, take out some pieces that no longer suffice what we need in 2018 and add better nuances to it that make it a more valuable treasure between 2 partners. We're on the same boat. We both want we both want dual partnership, both want marriage. I told you,
healthy cohabitation, compare it to healthy marriage.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree that I don't want to
compare it to healthy marriage.
But
I'm saying, no, what I'm saying is I told him in the very beginning of this thing, don't do healthy cohabitation against bad marriages. Like that's not apples to apples. If you do it against bad marriages,
cohabitation is a new trend. There's not even enough studies on that yet to dictate how well it's performing and how well it's not. What I'm talking about, the individual, the married individual, the married man.
A healthy marriage.
There's research.
I'm not acting like they're not bad marriages over here. I'm not acting like individuals don't go through that. I'm talking about from a cultural standpoint. If you have healthy marriages, we have to work harder as men. If we step up to the game, here it is. We have people getting married right now that are dysfunctional through the trauma that we experience. So this is why you're experiencing and seeing what you're seeing. So we have to fix the trauma, yes. But I am not putting marriage up by itself as the fix all. When I say marriage for children, you best believe I'm talking about healthy marriages. What does it take for you to be healthily available and ready to marry someone else? If you get healthily married people, that's not the people that's going to be coming to you, Demecos. So marriage itself is not the word marriage, and is not the issue.
That's my point is this. Yes, I'm not saying that, again, not saying that marriage is evil. All I'm saying is this: the way that we engage in marriage, why we engage for marriage, those are things that those are the traditional values of marriage need to change because human beings have changed. The way women
no,
today.
No, we haven't. No. Wait, hold on. You're making my point, Demecos. You're about to make my point. Human beings have not changed. Society has changed, and this younger generation that's coming through here is.
Here we go.
That's what it is.
Listen, y'all cannot sit up here and shame. First off, y'all are not. We got to stop acting like we are thousands of years old. All right, we're like 40, 30 years old, 50.
I think there's a difference between when we say traditional and. I think that this younger generation, I think the younger generation is confusing traditional with value. Like it's not traditional to have a 2-parent house. That should be a value system. That should be what you want. That should be something that you're working towards. It shouldn't be quote unquote optional. And traditional it's not traditional. Like that should be what everybody wants. Like everybody should want to have a family.
The method. When I say traditional, I mean the actual structure, the method itself. You look at a building, the structure of a building. I'm saying the current structure of marriage is an old building. It just needs to be updated. It needs to be renovated. Is all I'm saying. We're operating out of something that is hundreds of years old. Where they had to survive. Hold on, Montoya. Where they had to survive to live in this country. Today, you don't have to survive to live in this country. As a woman, you don't need protection from a man, and you don't need finances from a man. That doesn't mean she doesn't desire a man. That doesn't mean she doesn't desire his protection or desire his ability to provide. Don't get me confused because I say you don't need. When I say don't need is an expectation. I always preach and profess you do and coach. Stop trying to live up to an expectation. That's where we all fail. Jacques Francis. I can't think of his name right now. But anyway. Expectations is the reason of why all of us have so many stresses and pressure, and where all of us, we start to seed into depression, start to seed into isolation, men and women. So when I say need, know that I'm alleviating the expectation for men, especially. I'm helping men out by saying you don't need to live up to an expectation anymore. It's okay to be a healthy man and desire a woman. You can be want a woman and desire her. You just don't have to. Just get out of that mentality that she needs me. Alleviate your ego from that. That's your ego talking. It's not reality.
Demecos, do you ever desire children, or do you desire children in your life?
Yeah. I desire children. I desire a woman. I desire a family.
I didn't know if you did. That's why I asked that first.
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right. Couple things on the protection thing, just to throw it out there. And the ego, I've talked to Lanee about this. So the ego is something that does exist and it's real. A little part of the scientific aspect of it is testosterone actually feeds into ego, believe it or not, slightly.
Yes, it does. You're right.
Let's play this out real quick. So if me and you at the bar, Lanee's heard this before, but if you and I are at the bar and it's a little sketchy spot and shots ring out.
Right.
You and I finna get up out that thing as quick as we can. That's what you and I gonna do, right?
Right.
All right. If it's you and Lanee at that bar, so basically, when you and I were out, our nature was shots rang out. We afraid for our own lives, so we got the hell out of there. But if you and Lanee at that bar,
I'm gonna protect Lanee.
You know why? Your ego make you do because your nature would have been just to run like you ran when it was you and me. But your ego steps up to protect her.
I didn't say kill your ego.
I didn't say you can't kill it, but I just want to bring it out. Because I'm not trying to kill ego, but I am bringing up the aspect.
Not trying to kill ego.
One last thing. Well, yeah, I say kill ego. I just want to bring on ego is a thing that it matters to men from this standpoint. There's a couple things. Men's biggest need, you have to admit, respect and to feel needed. So you got this situation when that's what drives a man to do what he does. It is. Even in your cohabit situation, you're going to take care of her. You're going to put up the money because that's your need, whether you want to recognize it or not. And the last thing is this.
Not true.
I asked you, do you want to have children? Okay, that's fair. I'll let you respond to that. Here's the thing on the children. So if you have a daughter, and in a world where you say she doesn't need a man, that's fine. Do you sleep better at night if she lives at home alone? or if she were to have a husband who's there to protect her, which one do you sleep better at night with? Which situation do you sleep better at night? As
I sleep better at night knowing that she's there with her husband.
So I'm just throwing out, brother, they need us just like we need them.
Now, see, there you go with that need again. All right. It's okay to desire someone without needing somebody. All right. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have.
Not in words, but the premise is the same.
No. It's the approach, because one is, again, the expectation. What I really want to get us, I want us to really get away from expectations. Jacques Fresco, please look him up. Jacques Fresco, Jaqque Fresco, Fresco. He's a phenomenal world-class historian engineer. He has a whole theory about expectations. But anyway, you'll find this in many studies. Anyway, expectations are not healthy for human beings. When I coach women and I coach adult men, no matter their age, the number one stress I see them and I hear them battling with is expectations, trying to live up to some expectation. And here's the truth. You're never going to fulfill anyone's expectations but your own. The problem is that most of us never conjure up our own expectations because we're busy trying to fulfill others. So that's why I tried to get away from human beings saying we need each other. You do not need each other, all right? Men just are better off with women as wives, and children are better off with both. We desire each other, that's fine. But to say, I need you, need me, that's not a fair obligation to place. I just want you to know that's an expectation you're placing on another human being. Because
I might get a t-shirt, y'all, that says, I need men. I'm gonna give me a t-shirt. Anybody else that wants a t-shirt that says, I need men on it, let me know. Yeah, I am not afraid to say it.
Right. Let me throw this out, Demecos. Wait, see, from an individual standpoint, remember I said American individualism. You're absolutely right how expectations, we fail in how whatever we want to meet and greet and try to be in our lives, expectations definitely cause a lot of stress for us as individuals. And so I love the coaching from an individual standpoint of how somebody can be better. Like I can only imagine that's a big reason why your coaching is very successful. Here it is. When people decide to come together, you're already making a concession that I'm finna do this with another person. So that's different than how I would move on my own. And so I am absolutely gonna raise my daughter and son with some ideas of what to look for in a mate. And I'm in them finding that for a mate is because we naturally complement each other. Me, this sister on the other end of this phone, and me, black men and black women complement, women and men complement each other. It's not even a black, whatever. But the complementary thing is to fill each other up where the other is weak and the other is strong. We complement each other.
I agree, brother. I agree.
And right. So I am totally against the black community trying to compete against the rest of the world who culturally understands that they need each other. It's why they marry. And the numbers are proof. The millennials are marrying more. That's the new numbers. They're actually, marriage is on the rise for millennials. Go look it up, bro. Don't frown up. You know I don't make up no numbers.
You know I'm gonna look those numbers up.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, every time you try me, you 0 for 10 on me, right? Have I ever gave you information that ain't been correct on the stats? Go look up millennial marriage. It's increasing. Here it is. Anyway, with that said, keep in mind for the black community, because this is why it's my concern. For the black community, the cultures realize they need each other. They still marry. We cannot be, we're the last culture that can accept this construct that fits for the individual. I'm not saying it'll never apply for an individual, but from a cultural standpoint, there is no destroy, quote unquote, traditional marriage. That's already been done, and we're living it out right now with 13 times the wealth that the other community has that we don't have because we went this direction instead of continuing what our ancestors did right after enslavement.
I think here's the problem here. The problem is that I really hate that you feel like you're on the opposite end of me when I really feel like we're in unison. We just have different shades of it because we're both talking about doing it together. All I'm saying is that we have to look at better ways of doing it together than how our ancestors passed. Because the way they did it together, you're not putting in the full context of the lifestyle back then. You're taking a lifestyle of the ancient times or 100 years ago, 10 years ago, and applying it to 2018 where the environments are different. All right.
I'm looking at the numbers right now. The numbers right now.
But I don't want to bore the people with the numbers.
Here's the thing. And
Lanee, you look beautiful tonight. I don't know if I told you that, but you're shining right now. You're glowing right now.
Thank you,
and men need to know where to put in their application.
He wants to cohabit with you. He wants to cohabit with you. He wants to cohabit with you.
You know, I'm not the cohabitating kind of young lady. I'm sorry. There ain't no cohabitation going on around these pots. You don't have to. I'm old school. I'm traditional. I'm traditional. So that's what it is.
Hey, bring that old school back. Bring that old school back.
But I'm appreciative, and I thank you guys. Like, this is one of those conversations where we're gonna have to agree to disagree. I know Demecos is not moving on his position. I know Montoya is not either. But I wanted to have this conversation because I wanted to see what other people thought. I wanted to see if there were people who agreed with the thinking, the way that Demecos thinks. I wanted to see if there were people who agree with the way that Montoya thinks. I like having these conversations for the sake of healing, for the sake of communicating, for the sake of understanding each other. A lot of times these conversations are happening, but they're happening one-on-one. They're happening at the barbershop. They're happening with the woman. We don't have these conversations out in the front, in the open, so that we can hear each other's opinion, so that we can hear how and why a person thinks the way that they do. And so this conversation is not even so much to be like, this person is right and I agree with them, or this person is wrong and I don't agree with them. It's really about understanding. Why do you feel that way? Why do you think that? Is it a generational thing? Is it an age thing? Did you hear somebody say it? Did you have an experience? Did you get burnt? Like, why do people feel the way that they feel? Why do we act the way that we act? Why do we show love the way that we show love? The only way that we can have a real good understanding of that is if we have these types of conversations. So I did not think that we were going to be able to quote unquote resolve anything or make anybody change their opinion, but I really just wanted to understand, why did you feel that way? Because like, how did you come to that? Why do you feel like that? I wanted to hear Montoya's perspective, but then I also wanted to speak from a woman's perspective and say, no, we do. Like, if a man is walking around thinking that we don't, I just want to correct him and be like, no, we do need you, brothers. We do need the kings. We're queens. We can't be, we're a princess without, you know what I'm saying? We need kings and queens. Like, it goes together. So I wanted to just kind of have dialogue around this subject in case somebody is struggling or they're confused or they don't know or they needed to hear this dialogue. So it's not to say right or wrong, agree or don't agree. It's to have mental dialogue.
Yeah, I like that. Hey, let me say this real quick too. It was one question you asked us that was so key, and it was, you know, men know they need to lay with women and all this stuff, but we know what up. You want to ask us directly when we wouldn't take the responsibility. I wanted to key on and point this out to the Demecos. So when he gave you a response, he was saying to you that, you know, the men that come to him, that they individually, they're weighing it out and they're looking at it and, you know, looking from an individual standpoint of keeping up with these expectations is not benefiting them. But at the very start, all the numbers go up for when we marry y'all. Like, we definitely benefit for when we marry. So when an individual comes to you and is not having that success, I get it. But every number points to us needing to marry our women. So I agree. I'm just kind of pointing out how, without realizing it, you intrinsically contradicted when she asked that question for why they don't want to be responsible. The numbers point to they should be, because they win.
I agree.
So there's no reason we shouldn't be doing it. We need them, baby. We need y'all, queen.
I agree.
I was with, I saw you, Montoya, you saw I was with Dwayne Drawn and his wife, Isabel, this past weekend when I was in Chicago. And we talked about that video that I did, because he said he saw it and he was pissed. And so while we were there, we talked about it. And he said, I would be nothing. Let me not exaggerate. That's not what he said. What he said was, I'm better because of Isabel. Let me not, I don't want to put words in his mouth. He said, I'm better because of Isabel. Isabel makes me better. He was like, this business would not be where it is if it wasn't for her. She runs the book. She keeps, you know, she pushes me when things fall back. He was like, she's the brains of the operation. Like, I can't even imagine what my life would be like if I didn't have her as my wife. And I was like, yes, I love the kings that I surround myself with. Because there's some of them that just get it, like he knows. Now, I will say this was what I will say to Demecos' point. I don't know if he realized that after the fact. I don't know if he came to that conclusion after he was married, and so he could say that, like, wow, she has really brought my, elevated my life, if you will, or if he knew that going in. But I think that if we looked at each other like that, like, we need the man to elevate the woman, we need the woman to elevate the man. When we come together, we're better, we're stronger together. If we thought like that, we could get further, faster, better.
Yes, it has to be the messaging. That's how we fix what you asked me earlier. See, we can't fix it because we don't have that messaging no more. So we can't have messages of we don't need each other. We need messages of we're better when we're together. Those are the messages that the Black community needs more than ever right now. We need each other. We gotta end this gender war. We need each other.
I agree. We are better together. If you follow my page, I preach that every week to men. I always encourage men that in order for you to elevate your life, you have to implement a woman into your life as a companion. You have to. You look on Forbes, most of those men are married. All I'm challenging.
You just don't think they need to be married. They just should just cohabitate.
I'm saying if marriage works for you, if marriage works for you and I think you need to customize it based upon your person. If marriage, traditional marriage or whatever type of marriage whatever works for you, as long as y'all together, happy and healthy, that's what I'm with. Long as it's responsible and y'all are happy and healthy, that's what I'm with. So I'm pro marriage. I'm just saying that we have to take a step back and find out why it's not working. All right, find out why it's not working. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think the answer's out there. I think this is where we're in agreement at. We're not. Because even when people hear me talk, they literally think I'm just saying marriage is the fix. Where we are absolutely in agreement is this. When I say marriage before children, I absolutely mean fix your own dysfunction before you bring a life in this world. It's a hashtag, so it's short, so it doesn't include the context. But I get people that come at me about the marriage part as if I am happy with the dysfunctional marriages that exist right now. So I'm not saying marriage in itself is the fix, but I am saying before we bring children, because marriage should be about legacy, not just whether I love you or not. It should be completely about generational wealth and generational legacy. So I best would know whether, Lanee, if you my lady, if I think you can be a good mother to my child. Now, can I still mess that up? Yes, but I at least better have thought of it before we birth the child together. We're doing it. We're birthing children and then figuring out if my baby daddy or baby mama ain't shit.
We birth because that's because babies is having babies, but that's a whole nother conversation. I
agree.
So,
the babies ain't got better. Just so you know, the babies having babies is definitely
better.
Just so you know, most of our children are being born to sisters aged 20 to 30 by choice.
Right. I agree. I'm with you on that. I mean, again, bro.
We're on the same page now.
Huh?
I said we're on the same page, but I asked you to leave out women don't need us. Like, you got to go about that another way, because I know you're connecting need to expectation. The reason need has a bad connotation in 2018 is because we've always connected need to dependency. See, so the word can be connotated in ways that make nobody match up to it. But the fact that we complement each other ends up being a need when you got a woman you're supposed to be with. But need doesn't have to mean completely dependent, and need doesn't have to mean expectation the way that you mean it. I would just
accept that challenge.
To the next generation, like, let's not even find fancy words to dance around marriage because it has a negative connotation. Like, let's encourage boys to become men that are willing to be responsible in a situation with a woman.
Yeah. That's good.
That's why he big bro. And then
after you do that, can you encourage the men to be responsible in relation? I'm sorry. Okay. Let me stop. I'm gonna stop all my head.
Yeah, you're gonna get me fired up again. See? It was all copacetic.
This is what I do, because one thing I'll say, just so people really know we're not battling in this sense. He has always pushed. He pushed for marriage for the longest. Cohabitation is a new word that may work for you because I know you said personally this is what you want to do. See, I don't knock it for you as the individual. So that's what I want to make real clear. So I can make room for what makes sense for you, Demecos. I can make room for it, but I am very concerned that we latch on things that we put out publicly when we have a culture to save, when we've lost value in something that could help save us. So I don't want anything that keeps people lined up with, yeah, see, I'm gonna go habit instead of marry. Like I don't want people lining up to what you gonna do for yourself. And you keep it to the individuals that you helping, that's struggling, because you're helping them. But this is not, I'm begging you to get away from the public forum when our culture is, right now the numbers show that the married couples are still killing the non-married couples. I'm talking about children. See, when I think of marriage, I think marriage and legacy, not how much I love you and can we stay together. I'm not dismissing that, but marriage has always been more than just, am I in love? That's new to the world.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate both of you guys for coming on here and chit-chatting with me and talking to me. I do a lot of one-way dialogue, a lot of one-way conversations, and I'm always giving my perspective. And I always have brothers that are like, that's not what men think, and that's not how we are. You're man bashing. And I was like, you know what? Since Demecos put this post out here, why don't y'all come on over here to my page and let's have this conversation. Let's hear what men think. So now it's not just me having a talk or saying what I think. I actually got to sit down with two brothers that I love, I adore, I respect. And I like to hear what other people think, like, and why. Like, you know, we're all in this world. We're all dating. We're all getting married. We're all dealing with other people that are hurt or that have issues. And if we have these kind of conversations, we can better heal or identify something or talk about something with our mate or a potential mate and see what they think and how they feel. And do you want to cohabitate or do you want to get married? Like, you need to start asking that question, ladies. Apparently you got to know, are you dating me? Are we getting married? Or are you trying to cohabitate? This is a first date question you got to start asking in this.
No, get that word out of here, Lanee. Get that word out of here.
I'm just saying. So
hey, I'm with Minister Farrakhan, who says, and I accept this challenge as well. He's like, you don't know you're a man until you got a wife. So I'm willing to live up to that. I don't think that I am, because I don't know until I can take that responsibility. I'm with that. I'm not asking the Demecos to be with that, but I accept that as much as men like to think we're men, I ain't no man without no woman.
Yes. I agree. I believe that a man that finds a wife finds a good thing. And every morning I pray, Father God, let this man find his good thing. Woo. That's my prayer. Like, let me be the good thing, Lord. But I pray to work on myself because I got issues. Lim was saying it's not one-sided.
I'm telling you, that's a whole nother
conversation. We ain't having that conversation tonight, though. I got the other night.
Hold on. Christmas coming up. Don't get your man no Christmas socks. Don't get him no work shirt. Don't get him no cologne. Don't get him no brush and toothpaste. Don't get him no work shoes. Those are corny ass gifts. All right. Yeah. I want you to put a lot of thought.
Real men don't want no gifts. Real men, we don't want no gifts.
Hell, we gotta go. We gotta go. Y'all gonna get me cut down.
Just give us some head and noomsy.
Oh Lord, I definitely got.
That's all we need. There don't no damn gifts. I don't know no real man that want a gift.
I'm so done with him.
Man, that same head that he been getting for 10 years, man, you gotta doesn't come with a new mouth.
Renee, that's the new age get going their own way, men that need gifts and shit.
Lord have mercy. And on that note, I think
Montoya the type that he lather up with Vaseline. That's how he oil up with Vaseline. That's the type of dude he is.
Old in school. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, for watching. Thank you too for coming on. We had some serious technical difficulties. That's because this conversation was so good and we needed to have it, and we pushed through and we got it done. And I appreciate both of you guys. I appreciate everybody on my page, everybody who watches this video. Share it. I want to know what other people think. If you're still on, share this video. I want to know what other people think. Who do you agree with? What don't you like? What do you agree with? Like, open up the conversation. Have mental dialogue wherever you are in the world. I love you.
Stay
next time.
All right, y'all.
Steak and
All right,
head for
love y'all.
all holidays. Steak and head for all holidays.
Say-